Awesome. And now we have the Proj, and so or projection method. So beside restriction, the and the join operations, DataJoint offers another type of operation, projection. And the projection is used to, one, focus on attributes or columns of interest from a table. It can be used to rename these attributes, and it can even be used to calculate new attributes. So from the mouse table, suppose we only want to focus on the sex attribute and ignore the others. So we'll say, hey, DataJoint, look into the mouse. Remember, the mouse table has mouse ID, date of birth, and sex. But say we only want to see sex. So we tell it mouse.proj sex. Now we see that we get, instead of a 3-column table, we get a 2-column table. Of course, the primary attribute or attributes are always going to show up. But after that, it's only the secondary attribute of interest. We can also rename. This is powerful. So say we want to rename an existing attribute such as DOB of the mouse table to date of birth. This can be done using the .proj. So we say, DataJoint, I want the new column to be called date of birth, and I want you to rename the DOB column. So you have the new name of the column first, and then you tell it that you give it the column that you want to change. So now we see that it went from, the title of this column went from DOB to date of birth. Okay. You can even perform simple computations with Proj. And projection is perhaps most powerful to perform these computations, especially on attributes from multiple tables, by using in conjunction with the join operation. So let's say we want to find the age of an animal at the time of a session. So we would say, okay, well, the age, we know that age is inside we know that date of birth is inside the mouse table, and we know that session date is inside the session table. So we got to combine these two tables first. And then we'll use the .proj to calculate. And age is the new column that we're creating. And the dated diff, this is a method for, if you're familiar with SQL, it's a method that we use here as well. And you can find the difference in dates, and you tell DataJoint the columns that you want to find the difference in the dates of. So we want to find the difference with session date and date of birth. So we have, of course, our primary attributes, mouse ID, session date, and it tells us the age of the rats, or the mice in days. Excellent. And as a side note, yes, as you can see, the projection results keep the primary attributes from mouse and session, from the mouse and session joining operation, while removing all other non-primary attributes. If you want to keep the other attributes, you can use the ... syntax. And so it's basically the same command, but we have another argument in here. We put the ... And so we get the combination of, we are displayed all the secondary columns from both tables, along with our new calculated column, the age. Excellent. And we can also use the .proj method and restrict, right? So let's say we're gonna build on this table and we only want mice that are greater than 26 days old, or that were greater than 26 days old at the time of their session. So we get just one, the one that mouse 1 and Tin worked on him, and he was 27 days old. So awesome. As another side note, and I thought this was so eye-opening when I saw it. DataJoint provides a fairly intuitive way for structuring your query to get what you want. And we've said this before, but don't just take my word for it. DataJoint has this method called .makesql, and it shows you the equivalent query in SQL. So here we're looking for, well, it's the same query that we got earlier, right? So we want to see all the columns in the joining of these two tables. And we want to create a new calculated column that gives me their age, and only for mice that are greater than 26 days. So let's see how this would look as an SQL command. So these three lines are this same exact in SQL, are this same exact command in DataJoint. And so I think that is pretty amazing how DataJoint is able to shorten not only your time coding, your time thinking, but also just if you imagine trying to maintain this versus maintaining this, right? So that's just a really cool side note.